Hello, and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners in all stages of their running careers about their first marathon experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's episode is one of those stories that reshapes how you think about effort, identity, and what it means to choose something for yourself. Nora grew up believing athleticism lived in a completely different world than she did. She was drawn to music and theater, ran cross country because she had to, and never felt like running was something she was naturally good at or meant to pursue. Years later, after spending several years sick and eventually being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, movement became something fragile, something uncertain, and something she couldn't take for granted. When she finally reached remission, the desire to move her body came not from performance or identity, but from gratitude. Running entered her life slowly without expectations until one finish line made her wonder if she was capable of more than she ever allowed herself to imagine. In this episode, Nora walks us through how curiosity turned to commitment, how becoming a student of the sport reshaped her relationship with running, and how her first marathon tested her in ways that training never alone could. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Please welcome Nora. Nora, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you and break down your first marathon story. But first, before we jump into everything, just thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat. I'm a big fan of the podcast, so I always get really inspired hearing other people's stories. So I'm excited to share.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, let's jump into to where your running journey started. So I know if it was before running, like where did movement start for you? How did we start this whole journey of running a marathon?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like a lot of people who sort of start running as adults, when I was a kid, I was not athletic by any means. I was very into music and theater and like the performing arts. And I really just saw myself as I am not an athletic person. That will never be me, and that's fine. That's a whole other category of human,
Yeah.
not me. I had to do a sport in high school, so I did cross country because that's where the cute boys were. um, but I hated it. I did a bad job. I did not try at all. I really never wanted to put any effort into anything that didn't come like immediately naturally
Mm,
to me, I think.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it started later for me. Fast forward to my mid 20s, and I got very sick for several years. In 2020, after being sick without diagnosis for a couple of years, I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
Mm,
It took, I want to say, about a year after diagnosis for me to get into the right like treatment protocol to get into remission, which I've been in ever since, thankfully. But once I got into remission after being so sick for like several years, for
yeah.
the first time in my life, I really felt motivated to like move my body and just really celebrate like having a body that can wants to get up out of bed in the morning
Yeah.
really and just like be active. And I started, I think similar to your journey to the marathon, I started with rock climbing,
Yeah.
um, just because that's what my friends were into at the time, and it's super fun. And I really credit the rock climbing for me as the first time I really was able to enjoy and have fun with something that did not come naturally right away. So that was a
Yeah.
huge like growth moment, I think. And after a while of having fun with that, I found that I wanted something that was like a little more independent, like something I could just go out and do whenever I felt the need, like by myself,
Yeah.
without needing a gym or a rock
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff. And running seemed like the lowest barrier to entry. So I was like, I am going to go for a run. And
Yeah.
I did. And I think like a lot of beginner runners, when I first started out, I really fell into the trap of thinking that to go for a run is to go as hard as you can, as long as you can. And so my
Yeah.
first couple months of running was like running as fast as I could just until I felt terrible.
Yeah.
So that's like what I thought to be a runner meant. Um, but luckily, I'm kind of like nerdy about anything I get into. So pretty soon after starting, I like did some research on what like how to be a beginner runner, and how to learn how to run better, I guess. And so I learned, you have to slow down, you have to keep it easy, don't push too hard, take walk breaks if you need to. And that just made me a lot more comfortable,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I ran really independently and just kind of without any particular goal other than just getting out and moving my body for a while. I think it was about 8 months of running before I was like, I think I need a goal. Like, I think I would like to have something to work towards.
Yeah.
And I decided to train for a half marathon because I saw a lot of people doing that on social media. So my first ever race was a half marathon, and I did that in the end of September 2023. So it was like a year after I had started my running journey. I ran my first race. It was the first time I had ever run with like people since high school cross country.
Sure, sure.
Um, and it was just such an incredible experience. It was so much fun. I like met a lot of friends now who are my running friends at that race.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it prompted me to go to my first run club ever, which then prompted me to start a run club in my town. So it was just like magical experience. And when I crossed the finish line at that first half marathon, I was elated. It was just one of the happiest moments I had had up to that point. And I knew like as I crossed the finish line, I can do so much more than this. And that is just when it started like percolating in my mind, like, what if I ran a marathon?
Yeah,
Um,
I love that.
yeah.
Very cool.
Uh,
So yeah, we have a lot of parallels in our story. It sounds like
yeah,
because
I
I
think
like
so.
also hosting a run club. I also was into rock climbing before and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's like the you get the bug really quickly, and then it all snowballs very quickly from there
Yeah,
when it comes to running. The for your cross country journey, I'm curious. Like obviously that was way when you were younger, but like what was the difference between being a cross country runner then forming this like new relationship with movement after you were sick and all of that like down the road? What was that transition like for you?
it was it was really incredible. And even now, so I've been running for a little over 3 years now, and I still just will like laugh to myself about like if like 16-year-old Nora could see me now, she wouldn't
Yeah.
believe it. Like I can't even tell you how much I hated it. It's been real it just feels really good, and just like just being able to expand kind of like my own vision of myself, because I think the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we are capable of that we learn
Yeah.
like when we're young can get so stuck.
Yeah.
So just being able to kind of like free myself from that and realize, and then it ends up going beyond running, like because running has taught me I can actually be any kind of person I want. Like there's no limitation on what kind of stuff I can do and get better at and have fun with.
Yeah.
That just opens the whole world up to me to try whatever. So
Totally. Yeah. I love
it's
that.
yeah,
You prove it to yourself. You prove that you can do one thing, and then it's like I can take on anything. I can do
yeah,
anything else. So no, it's great.
exactly.
But yeah, keep going from there. So you ran your first half marathon, and then what were next steps from there for you?
Yeah, so right when I crossed that finish line, like I said, I got the marathon bug. So I looked for a race. I found one pretty local to me, the Cowtown Marathon, which is here in Fort Worth, Texas. And it was on my birthday weekend. So the race was the day before my 31st birthday. So I thought, oh, that'll be great. Like on my last day of being 30, I'll run a marathon. Like
Yeah.
that'll be cool. And I'll get to like rope all my friends into it because they'll want to celebrate my birthday with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I signed up right away. I want to say it was like in the couple weeks after running the marathon, I had signed up. Um, I started exploring run clubs in the area, just wanting to sort of doing that first race really gave me a sense of the running community that I hadn't super been aware of before
Yeah.
in my local area. So I wanted to explore that more. Um, but yeah, found the race, signed up for it, started thinking about training. Like I said before too, I'm a big nerd. Like I want to learn, and I want to if I want to do something, I want to do it the right way. So I did a lot of research. I listened to like Marathon Training Academy as a podcast I really got into, as well as reading a lot of like Runner's World articles. That's a magazine I like, and looked at their training plans. I started like getting more involved like in the social media, like the running community on social media, and like learning from people there.
Yeah.
Um, and I heard a lot about Hal Higdon. So I took Hal Higdon's like novice plans and then the Runner's World like beginner marathon, like 5 hour marathon plans. And I kind of meshed them all together, built my own plan based on those things with the stuff I had learned. And I am I'm like very tactile. I love to have something like I love to have my running plan like printed out on the fridge so I can check it off like after I do my run.
Yeah.
So I did that. I put it on the wall and I was like ready to go.
Yeah. So you print you the paper plan, and did you say that that ended up being like the Hal Higdon plan, or did you like piece together some plans?
Yeah,
What did you end up landing on?
I pieced it together from I
Hmm.
think Hal Higdon Novice One, maybe just one of the beginner plans, and
Yeah.
Runner's World. They have some really good free plans
Cool.
that I really like, and so I liked the mileage of the Runner's World plan. It felt more attainable, and I just sort of liked the structure of how they had it. But I
Yeah.
think that beginner plan they had you running like mostly 3 or 4 days a week, and I had like sort of gotten myself comfortable on 5 days a week. So I wanted
Gotcha.
to keep that up, but kind of keep the mileage at where the runner's world was. So that's kind of where I incorporated Hal Higdon to see about like, okay, so if I have 5 runs for a marathon training plan for a beginner, like what
Yeah.
do those 5 runs look like?
Yeah, I love that
Um,
you were able to have like kind of this foresight that like do not one plan's going to fit any one person. Like you were already becoming a student of running so quickly on in your marathon journey, which I think is like awesome.
Thank
I
you.
the paper plans I think, and you running multiple marathons now. I'm sure you can attest to this too. Like the paper plans can be a little dangerous for your first marathon because they're so one size fits all, and it can be easy when you're running your first marathon to be like, this has to be the only way to run a marathon because I don't know anything different. You know, so I
Yes.
love that you're able to like say, yeah, I like running this way. This is what I feel comfortable with. So I'm going to find a plan that does that, but then find a plan I'm comfortable with the structure. Like that thought process, I love.
Yeah, yeah, I really try like being a student of the sport, like you said, that's something that's important to me. And especially too, it is so easy now. Like you just type in give me a marathon plan and you can have
Yeah.
50 and like only some of them are going to be like healthy and beneficial. So
Yeah.
yeah, I tried early on to learn as much as I could, and I think that's really served me well as I've
Yeah.
continued and progressed.
Cool. I love
Yeah.
that. And when you started the plan, so obviously you had this half marathon base at that point because you had ran a half marathon already. So were you starting at 13 on the plan, or were you like, I guess, how long was the plan? Where were you starting? What did all that look like?
Yeah, so my longest long run when I started the plan, I think was like I had run the 13 and a half, but I started my long run at 10 miles at the
Hmm.
beginning of my marathon plan. And then I progressed up. My longest long run in the plan was 20 miles. And then I want to say I started around like 25 miles per week and worked up to around like 42 miles per week
Cool.
for my first build. And I did 18 weeks was the training
Okay.
plan, which
Cool.
felt good. And I've kept that's what I've done for subsequent marathons too.
Love that. Okay, cool. And yeah, when you were starting off in the plan, like if you remember the beginning of training, what were some of the things that were like surprising to you about training? Like what were some of the things that were coming up as you were starting marathon training that maybe was a little different from training for your first half?
I think the big thing was just the time. Like that Sunday
Yeah.
long run, like that is, it just ends up feeling like your whole day, especially when it's the higher mileage was like newer for me because I think I had peaked for the half marathon at like 26. Like my peak for the half marathon was where I started for the marathon
Mm,
training,
mm,
basically,
hmm.
of the weekly volume. So just getting used to the time commitment, and just the impact that then has on like my social life, figuring out, okay, well, it's Texas. I guess this I was training in the winter, so it wasn't getting super hot during the day. But one thing I have to think about here a lot, in any training block is like, okay, if it's going to be 106 degrees at
Yeah,
5
that's
p.m., I
insane.
probably am not going to do my 8 mile run at that time.
Right,
Um,
right.
so just figuring out the timing with other stuff I like to do, and not falling asleep at my desk after running 6 miles in the morning or whatever the distance
Yeah.
was. Just adjusting to that, learning how to say no, like when to say no and when to say yes to social things. I really love like going to shows, like going to concerts and plays and things like that. I try to do a lot of that. And just knowing when to say no, but also knowing when to say yes. Like when, no, it's okay if I get just a few hours of sleep. Like I can still do my run and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of judgment calls, especially when you
Mhm.
get further and further into training.
Yeah.
How was that? Like you were saying you like to do all these things, these social things. Like how were you feeling? Did you still feel like your cup was being filled by running? I guess is the question I'm trying to ask, because I know it's a lot of people sometimes when they have things that they like to do outside of running and then marathon training hits, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm saying no to literally everything that I like to do. So how was running replacing that, or how was that like
Yeah.
filling your cup differently?
Definitely in my first marathon training block, especially, like, I do think it was kind of running took over. Like, I was just having less and less time. I do find running just is great for my mental health. I know that's
Mm-hmm.
true for a lot of people. So it kind of worked for me. It also replaced a lot of doom scrolling time, which is a problem I have.
Not a
So
bad thing. Yeah.
yeah, like if I'm running, I can't be scrolling on Twitter. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, so finding the balance was tough, and running definitely like took over as the primary thing. And another kind of tough thing about that I learned in that first marathon training block is just um unless I'm sure this is different for folks who train like in a training group or train for a marathon with a friend or a family member or something like that. But being like the only person training for the marathon in my kind of immediate social group,
Mm,
it's kind of tough because, people are really impressed, like, wow, you ran 9 miles, but they don't really like understand, like, they're not in that with you. So that can
right.
feel kind of isolating.
Yeah, totally. I think that's why. And you said you started to go to run clubs and stuff. Were you already going to run clubs during that time, or is that something that like came further down your training journey?
Yeah, so I started the run club in my town, like sort of at the beginning of my first marathon training
Oh,
block. So
cool.
I basically like separately like texted a bunch of my friends and to kind of say like, hey, what if we went to the park and went for a run and then had lunch?
Yeah,
So it started with like my friends, basically just kind of roping them into it. And we've stuck with it, so it's been awesome. But yeah, it's like a casual, just like Saturday morning social run and brunch
I
situation.
love that.
Yeah,
That's so fun. So
yeah,
fun.
it's great.
How did that help with the like it that you've got roped your friends into it, so maybe a little bit of the same community, but how different was it like integrating yourself into the running community when you were training for your first marathon?
Yeah, it was awesome, and I was so like pleased. I started posting a little bit about the running club once we had gotten some consistency with the friends I had invited initially. I started posting about it on my social media, and we have a few members now who are still with us who like heard about it on social media.
Oh,
So
that's
it
awesome.
was really cool to kind of just grow the group a little bit. And even though like no one in the group at that time was training for a marathon as I was, it was still like just really cool to kind of see people at different stages of their running journey. So for some
Yeah.
people who were in the group, one of my friends had run a marathon like 10 or so years back and hadn't been into running lately. And so him coming back to running from a long time away, and then some friends who are, had wanted to go for a run but had never really taken the plunge. Like this was kind of their impetus to start running. And so to see them at that stage of their journey that I had been at not that long ago. So just
Right.
kind of being in community with people at all different stages is very inspiring and encouraging. So I definitely that it helped in that way a lot.
Totally. Yeah, I think it like you were saying, I think it can make you feel like you're less alone even if nobody's training for a marathon with you. It's like these people are taking steps that you also take. So you can kind of like took so you can see yourself in other people, which I think is a really cool thing about Run Club for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, so we're training for a marathon. We're going along in training. What do you remember is what as the like first run where you were like, okay, this is getting real. Like I'm training for a marathon.
Yeah. So I started my training in November, I guess, sometime in November, late November for the February marathon. And I remember this run, it was like in the dead of winter, and I'm originally from Maine, so like I know
Mm,
winter, and it is not
yeah,
the same in Texas as it is elsewhere. Like we have it very easy
yeah.
relatively. But it does get cold and it does snow here. And I remember I had one 15-mile run, and it was, I think on the thermometer, it was 9 degrees
Mm,
Fahrenheit. And then with wind chill, it was like 3 or 4 is what it felt
oof.
like. And
Yeah,
I was like, well, I guess I have to do this because in February in Texas, you just have no idea. You have no
right.
idea what it's going to be. So I was very, very dedicated for my whole training to 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 go out there and do it. I think I just did like a couple treadmill runs, like the whole training block. I was like, I have to prepare because it could be 26 miles in this weather. So I
Right.
better be ready. But yeah, it was, I think I ran the first like few miles before I had to run home and like put on a second pair of pants or like leggings under my pants. I had to like my water froze, my gels
Oh
were
my
like
gosh.
frozen, my eyelashes, like it was a beatdown. And
Yeah.
I was like, this is very real. What have I done? But
Yeah.
we got through.
Yeah, no, that's really tough. I
Yeah.
feel a little spoiled in North Carolina. We get cold, but we don't get like flasks freezing on you cold. That's insane.
Yeah. It was not.
Would for those runs like that are really hard like that. Like you said, you went back and grabbed some extra layers. Like you were dedicated to getting it done. Aside from like preparing you for race day, like what were things that were motivating you, I guess, to not just throw in the towel and be like, I'm going to do this a different day.
There is something, I don't know if this is just me, but like the feeling I had when I came home from that run at the end and like could say that I had done it, I felt very powerful and very strong.
Yeah,
So so I really just knowing how good it feels, like that sense of accomplishment from pushing through something very, very hard that a lot of people wouldn't be willing to do, I think is was a big motivator. And I think that's like a big motivator in running marathons at all, probably.
yeah.
Just knowing you can do a hard thing and like being able to look back and say that you did that.
Yeah. The runs that I remember from training for my first marathon were like the 9 miles in pouring down rain, like the crazy
Yeah.
ones where you're like, yeah, those are the ones that really mattered when I got to race day.
Yeah.
So yeah, those crazy ones, they definitely stand out to you.
Yeah.
Um, cool. Okay, so yeah, we ran our 15-mile run. Where did you end up peaking in training? Was it like 20 miles, 22
Yeah. It was
miles?
20.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I felt pretty good about that. I did, have the anxiety like I think every first time marathoner does, like, okay, just because I can run 20, does that really mean I can run 26? I don't know if
Yeah.
it does. But I had read all the things and listened to the podcasts and seen the TikToks. Like, I really just tried to tell myself it was enough and just trust in that.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
The 20-mile run, were there any before we moved to like taper and talk about race day and all that, were there any other runs that stood out to you in training? I know like we just talked about a little bit, the harder ones are the ones that really matter, but like were there any runs where you started to feel like the marathon was more doable or ones that like knocked the confidence down a little bit? Just any other high
Yeah.
or low points that you remember from training?
Yeah. I remember I had, I think, a couple 18-mile runs, and one of those just felt so good. Like I had like in the middle of that I had several miles at like a faster pace and I just nailed them. Like I had an 18-mile run that really went a long way towards building my confidence just to be able to accomplish the distance.
Yeah.
Just knowing that I could pick up the pace like that in such a long run and recover from it to finish the run, that really helped because even though um, I didn't have a super time goal, but I did have 5 hours like in the back of my mind. I was trying to
Gotcha.
tell myself like we're just gonna finish. Like the goal is to finish. It's your first
Yeah.
marathon. You have not been running a long time. The goal is to finish.
And then what about like fuel and things? That's all you. Yeah, I'm sure you were fueling. Hopefully, well, I don't know, but maybe you were fueling for your first half marathon. But I think you can get away
Yeah,
with the half marathon, like being a little looser with feeling. But once you're
yeah,
in marathon training, you can't really get away with it. So what were some of the things you were learning about fueling? What were you looking into? What did that
yeah.
look
I
like?
definitely learned a lot about it. I had fueled a little bit for the half marathon just with gels, and I have like I like the noon electrolyte drinks, so I kind of just kept up with that, but just increased it, commensurate with the more time I was spending. I tried
Yeah,
to really stick with like every 45 minutes, take a gel and just make sure I was hydrating. It was pretty hard to stay hydrated, especially because it was colder. I don't know, like when it's, August, it's pretty easy for me to make sure I'm getting my fluids in because I have to. I feel like I'm
yeah,
gonna die if I don't.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but when I'm cold, it's like I never really feel like I want to drink the water. So just kind of really monitoring and like forcing myself to do it, even when I didn't feel like it, was kind of the thing I remember most about the hydration and nutrition for the
Yeah.
training.
It's a great point, and I could probably go down a whole wormhole on this, but I will not go down that wormhole. But like, yeah, wait, when you're in the summer, you have like your body gives you cues for hydration and
Yes.
fuel. But when you're training in the winter, your body doesn't always give you those cues.
Yes.
So I think like a little side tip for anybody to set a timer on your watch or something like that to keep you
Hmm.
honest in winter training is super relevant
Absolutely.
for right now and just super important in general because it's really hard to understand those cues, and then like sometimes you don't even have them. Sometimes like you were saying, you don't feel thirsty, so you're not going to drink something.
Yeah.
It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Okay. Well, getting closer to race day, so we ran our 20-mile run. Sounded like everything went decent with the 20-mile run, and then we were in taper. Did you have like a 2 or 3 week taper?
I did a 3-week taper. So I did
Okay.
like the 20-mile peak week, and then I think I did like 14 miles and then 10 miles maybe for those long runs. And oh my gosh, the taper tantrums hit me very hard.
Really?
I
Okay.
was a mess. I was like in a terrible mood. I was afraid I was getting sick like every day. I got like a skin rash on my face because I
Oh
was so stressed out
no.
about it. Like it was terrible. And I'm looking back, I'm actually like very thankful I had that experience in my first marathon because it
Yeah.
prepared me really well. Like now that I know that's coming, I can kind of be ready for it.
Yeah.
I do not taper well. I stuck to it. Like I stuck with it, but I was not having a good time.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was just the like lack of having something to do, like just having more energy or more time, or like what do you think it was for you?
Yeah, I think just having the time to worry about it. I think just seeing on the calendar like the day of the race drawing near and like knowing I was going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Um, just all those things sort of combine. And then just with, I feel like you're changing your brain chemistry kind of because you're so used to this high mileage that you've been building up over months, really.
Yeah.
And then it's gone. So yeah, the first week feels okay, and then the second week for me is where it kind of starts to fall apart.
It's like, let's just go. Let's just get
Yeah,
this
let's
thing out
just
of
go.
the way.
I just want to do
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
tough.
I think it's also tough. Tell me if you relate to this too, but I remember for my first marathon, it was almost like the marathon training was like a drug. It was like dopamine hit every weekend.
Yes.
You're hitting a new PR every weekend, new mileage, new paces, new
Yes.
something, like everything's so new. And then you hit taper and it's like screeching halt and
Yes,
everything
absolutely.
stops. Is that how it
Yep.
felt for you?
100%. Yeah, it's like the good brain chemicals you were getting just go
Yeah.
away. So,
Yeah. It can be tough for
It's
sure.
hard.
Yeah. And then so we got through taper. And
Yeah.
then what were like the race logistics for you for this one? Were you traveling in for it?
Yep.
What did all that look like?
So Fort Worth is probably like 45 minutes from where I live, so pretty close. We stayed down there in the hotel just to make it easier for race morning. And then, of course, the thing I left out about the taper that added to the anxiety is I was doing what I think every marathoner does, which is check the weather every day.
Yeah.
Check the weather. And so it had been, kind of a normal to, I think, cold Texas winter that I had trained through. And like I said, I hit my runs outside. I wanted to be ready for anything. But as the date of the race appeared on the 10-day forecast and it got closer and closer, the temperature went up and up and up. And so it was a very hot day. It was like the hottest day since the previous fall, basically.
Ugh.
And we just hadn't had a hot day for a long time. So I was very stressed about that. The race even sent out an email like, we're in the yellow zone, like be aware. And so I started to worry, like, are they going to cancel it? Because it was forecast to be, I think, like 82 degrees on the day of the race.
That's really hot for February. That's crazy.
Yep.
So, I was thinking you were going to say like 72 to 75, and that even so would feel hot for me. But yeah, 80 is that?
Yeah.
Oh man, that
it
sucks.
was 81 when I crossed the finish line.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But so, which, I mean, you can run in 82 degrees, but if you're not acclimated, it really is, it can be dangerous.
Right.
So especially coming off winter training and people traveling in from even colder states, it was scary, and I was starting to worry, like, is this thing going to be canceled?
Yeah.
So it was not canceled, but it was very hot, and I think like we didn't even have a 70-degree day until I want to say like 2 days before it got up to 70. But it was just like very sudden, very extreme, like day of the race, it got hot. So Yeah, that was tough.
Oh, that's super nerve-wracking. I'm sure you were
Yeah.
just like watching it, like you were saying, go up and up and up, and your anxiety was just getting like building and building, I would imagine. But that
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy.
And it's going to be bad. Like I had, my coworkers, people at my workplace were, vaguely aware that I was doing a big race on the weekend. And I had people like saying to me during the week, like, oh, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. So,
You're like, you have no idea.
yeah, when like the normie non-runners are saying it looks like a beautiful day, like, no,
You're like, it's not
it's
good.
not
This
what
is
you
not
want.
gonna go well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So, when you're preparing for that, like, was there anything you like? Were you thinking about making any last minute changes, or were you just like, we're just gonna stay the pace and figure this out?
So I had like 3 runs that week just for my last week of taper. And like, I had what, like a Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday maybe with the race on Sunday. I like to do my shakeout run like the day before. And so on whatever day it was when it got to 72 or something, like when it started getting warmer, I like went out for my run and I put on layers so I could like practice being hot, but you
Mm,
can't get heat acclimated in that
right.
time. It's just like
Right.
physiologically it's not going to happen. But just to like make myself feel a little better about it, I tried.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just made sure I packed my electrolytes and hoped for the best.
Hope for the best. Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
you can do.
Hmm.
What were you thinking in terms of like hydration plan or fueling plan? Like using Encores? Did you have a
Yeah.
vest? What did that look like?
I carry my own water bottle, just like a little handheld water bottle that I really like. And I have these like sports bras that have front pockets, which I just love. So I just like I was gonna load up. Like I was using goo at that time as like the only gel I was taking, so I don't think that's what they had on the course. So I just plan to pack all my own. I plan to like just drink at the water stations, or more if I needed to, but like drink out of my water bottle at the water stations to remind myself like when I needed to be drinking.
Yeah.
And then just take the Gatorade. They had Gatorade, I think, like once I ran out of my own.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So we traveled in. You said you got there the day before, right? The day before
Hmm.
the race.
Yeah,
Okay,
for the
cool.
expo and everything.
Very cool. What was all that like? The expo. It's all very exciting. So hopefully you
Yeah,
got
it
to
was
enjoy it.
so cool. Yeah, it was amazing. Cowtown is a great Texas race here. I love it. I would do it again. But yeah, the expo is big. Like to me, it seemed huge. I had never done another like big race like that, but it wasn't like too overwhelming. It just felt really good and fun and exciting. So
Yeah.
it was just fun to be there. I also felt like I was starting to get a cold on the Saturday. Like I woke up just
Mm,
with that kind of like feeling in my face and just like feeling too hot and too cold at the same time. You know how you
mm,
feel when you're getting sick. So I was like, at that point, because it was the day before the race, I was sort of resigned to whatever was going to happen, like with the weather and my health, I guess. So I sort of had less anxiety about it, I want to say. And I was just like, no, that's not happening.
yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. We're actually just not
So,
gonna get sick. So
yeah, actually, no. So I just took
yeah.
like a lot of Zycam that day,
Yeah.
and drank a lot of water. And we're like, it's going to be like, we're doing it. We're doing the race tomorrow. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Cool.
just had fun at the expo, tried to eat a lot of carbs. I really didn't do like a particularly planned carb load or anything. I just had in my head like we'll do more carbs. So I eat a lot of carbs anyway. So
Yeah. There you go. That's all you can do. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. So expo and then night of how were you feeling the night before? Like antsy, nervous? What was going through your
Yeah.
head?
I felt really nervous. Just still just really stressed about the weather because they had sent out like that yellow alert. But just and it was going to be like windy and in the 50s at the start.
Okay.
And then get up to 80. So I was kind of trying to prepare. Like I had my throwaway clothes to wear at the beginning, like a big sweatshirt because I knew it was going to be chilly. And then I did just like tank top and shorts because it was going to get toasty.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah, and there was, let's see, at the hotel they had like a little shuttle to the start line. So I
Nice.
think we caught that, me and my partner, at like 4:40 in the morning maybe. And then the start line, they do a really nice job at Cowtown because it's right by this big convention center. So you can just wait. Like the holding area is the convention center. So you can be inside. There's nice bathrooms. There's stuff going on. It was nice in the morning.
Very cool. Okay, cool. Then race morning. It sounds like you were pretty close to the start line. So taking the
Yeah.
shuttle to the start line and everything. And yeah, same thing. Like, how were you feeling the morning of once you actually got to the race?
Yeah, I was really nervous. I ran into a bunch of my like running friends from the
Oh,
run
fun.
club that I had first visited, who were folks that I had met at my first half marathon, who were just so welcoming and friendly to me there, and just like came right up to me and chatted with me and invited me to their run club. So a lot of those people were at this race. So they saw me right away. They just like took me under their wing, and I sort of got ready with them, and it just felt really nice to kind of like you have all that nervous energy before the race, and to just kind of
Yeah.
have other people around you to talk to and to kind of like diffuse it and hear their advice. I got some good words of wisdom from them about just, it's going to be a hot day. Like it is what it is. Just, it's not going to get hot. Like it's not going to, it wasn't going to, it was just fun. Like I just remember the thought going through my head was like, I cannot believe I am doing this. Like, this is happening. I feel pretty good. Like, we're just doing this. So I started the race with this girl, Liz, who I know actually from TikTok. Like, we had followed each other for a while, and she had already been friends with some of those people in the running community that I had
Mhm.
known already there. So she came right up to me and said, I'm Liz. We met each other. We ran together for the first several miles, and it was so nice.
Nice.
We just had a really great time, and she just helped me be calm, and we helped each other kind of stay on pace. And it was just really fun. Like it was just a really fun time to celebrate. And I really felt like in that first half, I remember I had seen a lot of like stuff on social media of people saying your training is the hard part, the marathon is the victory lap. And I do have more thoughts, but the first half I definitely
Oh, great.
believed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, the first part of the race, maybe it's like the first 10 miles, I want to say, I was feeling really good. And I have to also talk about my amazing support crew. My partner got together a group of, I think it was like 9 of our friends, and he loaded them up in his van, and they were at 5 different locations along the course,
Wow, that's
which
great.
yeah, which, and we do not have good public transportation here. So they were like,
Yeah,
he had a plan, he had a map, like he
I
got it
love
done,
that.
and they were there with their signs and their cowbells, and it was awesome. So I saw them like a couple times in that first, like in that beginning portion of the race with Liz, and it was just so exciting because I didn't know where they were going to be, but they
Ooh,
found me. So
yeah.
it was just always like a fun surprise to see that big crew.
Yeah, it's a little like adrenaline boost or a little energy boost when you see some people you're like so many people you pass that are cheering, but they're not cheering for you, and then you find your people and you're like, let's
Yeah.
go.
Oh
But that's
yeah, it was
awesome.
great.
5 times is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
That's like
I
a
know, right?
marathon in itself trying to get around
Yes.
some of these races. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for real. In the Cowtown Marathon, there is this really big hill at mile 9. It's much discussed when people ask or talk about this race.
Yeah.
And so I was like really nervous about it. And it is like you come at it from kind of this long, like straightaway. So you see it like looming in the
Mm.
distance, and it is very scary to look at. But the way they do this hill is it's like a cheer station for like military folks. So
Oh,
like there's
sure.
a lot of ROTC kids who like line the hill, and along the hill they have photos and little like posters for like service members who died.
Mm.
Um, and so it was like extremely emotional, extremely inspiring. I wasn't really expecting it. Like I had just heard about the hill being a terrible, terrible time. But actually, like going up that hill and just being cheered for by those people, and like seeing all the signs and just thinking about what other people give up, and like here I am running a marathon, like
Right.
healthy, happy. Like it was really, really moving. And it was one of my favorite parts of the race in the end. So
Yeah, that's cool. That really puts things, I think, in perspective. Like it's not. It sounds like it's not only a great distraction from a hill, but yeah, like you said, like it really puts into perspective what hard is, and like hard in a marathon is different than hard that somebody might be experiencing
mhm,
otherwise. So, that's actually
exactly.
really cool. I like that a lot,
Yeah, it was definitely what I needed, like in that moment.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing I want to shout out, so I mentioned my support crew. And so in addition to the friends that my partner Mike had like rounded up, I had another friend, a coworker actually, who I had pretty recently started working with. at our workplace, and he had run several marathons before. So he's like one of the few people I knew who had the experience of running a marathon, and he had run in Cowtown. And so he like coordinated with my partner of like, okay, you let me know where you guys are going to be, and then I'm going to go to these other spots that I know are particularly challenging, like when there's not going to be a lot of support, and when I know like as a runner, like she's going to really need like more help there too. So he was incredible. So he was like at the top, like around the corner, kind of after that hill too, like just after you've completed this trek and you're feeling
Yeah.
like very emotional. So he was up there. And so yeah, so I had the 5 times that I saw my big crew of friends, and then he caught me, I think, like 4 additional times, like in
Wow.
some of the hardest points along the course. So it was just like it really just, the whole experience made me feel like very, very thankful for the people in my life too. So
Yeah. Sounds like you have some awesome people in your life. That's
yeah,
really cool.
I sure do.
Yeah. That's amazing. Cool. Well, yeah, keep walking along your story.
Okay.
So first
Yes.
half, and then break down what happened from
Okay.
there.
So at around, I think it's 10 miles, don't quote me, but it's somewhere around there, the half marathon runners split off from the full marathon runners. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, everyone running this race was running the half marathon.
Yeah.
It was
Got
like
quiet.
I was in a big crowd, and then it got real quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, the point when you get to like the 14-mile marker in a marathon, I think that is the hardest part, because at that
Totally
point you
agree.
have gone so far. Like you are the farthest you've ever gone in a race, if it's your first marathon, probably. And you still have so much farther to go, it feels
Yeah.
like. So at mile 14, I was in a little bit of mental distress, I would say.
Yeah.
I was still feeling pretty good at that point, but I was starting to worry. So I had made myself, during all my training, I listened to a lot of music when I was training. So I had made myself like 5 very long, like 5 different several hour playlists on Spotify of different types of vibes like I thought I might need. So I had like happy pop and like dramatic like soundtracks, like
Yeah.
angry music and desperation. Like I had 5 different ones of the things I thought I might need. So in the first part of the race, you know how it is, like pretty crowded. I didn't really hear the music I was listening to too much. Then when the half marathon split off, it was quiet, so I started to really enjoy the music a little bit more. But once I got to like 17, 18, and I was starting to hurt a lot, I was starting to chafe, which like never happened. Like I don't have issues with that typically. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I didn't want to take any more gels. I was feeling bad, the mile
Yeah.
18 wall.
Yeah.
And I was like flipping through all of these playlists, like trying to find something, anything to distract me, and nothing could do it. So the music, like all this work I had put into it, suddenly became like a very negative thing, because it was just like, I don't know how to describe, like I was like focused on it. I wasn't focused on the race, but I was in a lot of pain, but I was like on my phone trying to like find something. It was not a good feeling. It felt bad.
Yeah.
Nothing was helping. And,
Yeah.
and I almost like called Mike to be like, talk to me, like I can't do this. But I didn't. And then I saw them around mile 21, and that helped a lot, but I still felt very bad. And then I started to get like so mad. I was just like angry, like at all the people I had seen who said the race is a victory lap.
This does not feel like
I
a
was
victory.
like, I was like, I am taking all the pain I am feeling right now, and I'm channeling it into rage.
Yeah.
my beautiful, supportive Run Talk community for lying
Right.
to me. I was like,
That's so funny.
this is the hard part. The training is hard, but this is also the hard part.
Yes.
But yeah, I I took some pickle juice at like mile 23, and then I felt immediately so sick. Like I love pickle juice. Like I'll always take pickle juice at the end, like of whatever race, but
Yeah.
I am not trained with it, and I took it, so you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And I felt bad. It's kind of a blur, honestly, looking back now, but
Right.
it was a really hard last few miles, like it
Yeah.
always is, I guess. But and
Yeah.
also the heat. I haven't even mentioned it was
Right.
so
Right.
hot, so that was affecting me physically and mentally as well too.
I'm sure that was a big part of it. I
Yeah.
would guess that that the heat was playing a big factor in the just like rage, like mental spiral, like what the heck is
Yeah.
happening to my body and my
Yeah.
mind. Like I'm sure the heat had a lot to do with that
Yeah.
too. But it also like I always like to point out too when we talk about the wall in a first marathon, and like I said, you've ran multiple marathons, so you probably understand this now too. But like it's just the fact that you haven't gone through that before that I think is the hardest part because
Yes.
you like you
100%.
don't know what's on the other side of like you
Right.
don't know if it's all gonna fall apart at mile 25.9,
Right.
and you know what I mean. So I think that's the hardest part about the wall, hitting the wall in your first marathon. It's like, well, what do I do from here? I've never, this is all uncharted territory for me, you know.
Totally. Absolutely. It's like, how much longer am I going to be out here? I
Yeah,
literally have no idea. Like, am I going to get to the end? Am I going to crawl to the end? Like,
right.
you just don't know. You
Like
just,
who
and what's it
knows?
going to feel like? Like, what am I going to feel like tomorrow? So
Right, right, yeah. But we know you crossed. We know
I
you finished your
did.
first marathon.
I
So yeah,
did.
talk to us about the maybe like the last mile in the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the last mile, I saw my friends again. They were kind of like along the chute. So that was really good to see them. I felt bad. There's some really funny like finish line pictures of me where I'm like, like my face is I'm just making this terrible face. Um, but yeah, it was hard. I crossed the finish line. So I had been a little worried, maybe isn't the word, but the thought had crossed my mind. So when I finished the half marathon, and I was immediately like, oh my gosh, I can do so much more than that. I have to sign up for a full marathon. I had kind of wondered, so when I cross the marathon finish line, am I going to be like, I have to do an ultra? I was
Yeah,
worried that that was
like
about
what's
to be my
next?
journey. Right? Like,
Yeah,
am I going to be like raring to go for the next harder thing? Um, but that did not happen. I crossed the finish line and I was like, oh my gosh, that is literally it. Like, that is all I have to give. That was
yeah,
everything. I left it all out there. Um, yeah, I felt so physically and mentally wrecked. I did not feel like any of that kind of like high elation finish line feeling. So it's like I didn't feel good. And then I started to feel bad about not feeling good because you see so many stories on social media of like, people cross the finish line of their first marathon and it's just like this magical moment that's like so joyful. And I just didn't feel any of that. So I'm not feeling it and then I'm feeling bad about not feeling it.
yeah.
I like, and I really, looking back, I do think so much of this is like can be attributed to the heat. Like
Right,
I was just physically like unwell
drained.
from being
Right.
out there like that. There's like a photo op to take a picture of with your finisher's medal, and like the camera guy like came up to me ready to take a picture, and I just like waved him away. And if you know me, like I always want to take a picture about it, so that was
Yeah,
just like that's how down bad I was. But yeah, I just oh, it was not a good feeling, unfortunately. But my friends found me. I had some biscuits and gravy. They,
food cures a lot
yeah,
after marathons. Yeah.
yes, and it really did. And they like spirited me away to my birthday party
Oh yeah,
where
I
I
totally
where I
forgot
had
it was
cake.
your birthday. Oh
Yes,
my gosh,
yeah.
yes.
So
So
they
you
had
had to
got me like,
celebrate.
yeah, they had got me a cake with like a runner crossing the finish line on it, and it
Fun.
was beautiful and fun. And I was just like in a total fog the whole time, but I felt very loved, and it was looking back on it, it's like a very good experience. But in the moment, I felt sad that it was over, and just kind
Yeah.
of my time was 5:02:10, which is incredible. Like, go me. I did
Yeah.
that. But I just felt I I felt bad. It was
Yeah.
hard.
When do you feel like you really let it soak in that you ran a marathon? How long did that take?
It took a while. So the next day I was off work, and I very bad idea. Do not do this. I just like spent the day lounging in bed, so like,
Yeah.
which did nothing for my recovery. But I was just kind of like in this daze of just like, what did I just do? I can't believe I did that. And I'm really glad I hadn't mentioned this, I guess, but at some point during that training, I had signed up for the Chicago Marathon lottery and gotten accepted. And I'm
Mm,
so, so glad that I did, because I think just like my headspace in the immediate aftermath of the marathon, like if I had not already signed up for another one, it might have been a long while before I like, if ever,
yeah.
wanted to do that again. And so a lot of my feelings were like, oh my God, I have to do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was in those next couple of days as I was sort of recovering mentally, getting unfogged in the brain, that I sort of started to realize, like, I'm a marathon finisher.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you had a second to like let that sink in because you know
Yeah.
it like it's I hear this all the time on like just interviewing people on this show like people it's still and it happened to me too I should say before I even say this next part like it also took me a minute to really let my first marathon soak in like when
Yeah.
I finished I was like what the hell just happened to me like that was insane but once it does soak in you're like wow I really like I really felt bad about finishing a marathon. Thinking about who you were at the beginning of your training block, right? Like when
Yes.
you didn't even think it was a possibility that you could
Right.
do something like that, and then you get to the end and you're disappointed in yourself. You're like, it's crazy how
It's
that
crazy.
just like comes
Hmm.
so full circle from the beginning of your training. But I'm glad you did like a couple of days after you were able to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we definitely got there. And one thing I think that, again, like looking back, I am so grateful I had that experience as my first marathon, because I think it really kind of encapsulated like the challenge of the marathon as a whole. Like, you train so hard, like you control everything you can control. And I did. Like, I nailed my training. I nailed my nutrition. Like, I followed my fueling and hydration. I did I'm really, really proud of the training block I like put together. You are just like neurotic about controlling so much, and still the weather, illness,
yeah,
injury, like there are things that you will just never, nothing you can do about it. And it can totally change the course of your day. And I think like the weather, the heat played such a factor in like every part of the whole last half of the race, I guess, once it got really hot. That I learned that so quickly. Like, I learned that so early in my running journey, I guess, that it's like it's not fair. Like, the marathon's not fair. Like, you
yeah,
do everything you can, and you still have to be able to let go. So it's like the physical training is huge, but also that mental training of just being able to let go and let the things that are out of your control, like, they're gonna be what they're gonna be, and that's life too. So yeah.
yeah. I love that. Yeah. I wanted to ask too, just to kind of bring us back full circle. Like, you talked in the beginning about your diagnosis with like Crohn's disease
Yeah.
and being in remission through this whole thing, and like after crossing the finish line of your first marathon, which is maybe something when you were like not in remission, that was something that you like would have never
Yes.
imagined you could do, right? Like, were you able to reflect on that? What was it like coming out the other side of that after having that experience?
Yeah, it's just so like meaningful and special to me. Just I was sleeping like 16 or 17 hours a day and just feeling so much pain like all the time, and discomfort, and just like for like literal years it was just terrible. And so like every day that I get to go out and run is just feels like such a gift. And um, so accomplishing a marathon through that, and yeah, that was something I reflected on in that following week as I was recovering, of just being able, like having the chance to do that. And one thing with Crohn's disease is like I'm in remission, but the longer you're on any given treatment, like the more like it's not going to work forever. Probably there'll be a time when I go out of remission and probably have to find a new medication or maybe have to have surgery.
Mm,
So it's just like, and you really just never know like what is going to be your last like good day for a while.
yeah,
So just getting to get through a whole training block and a race at the end of it, and now three of them, is just like incredible. Like, I'm just very, very lucky for that.
yeah,
So yeah, I definitely felt, I thought a lot about that in the week after, and during the race. That was something when I was just so, I was just having such a bad time. That was something I tried to like cling to and remember, that like I'm getting to do this. Like, I chose to be out here, and this is like, even in all this pain and like how bad it feels right now, like it's just so good. Like, it's just such a good, beautiful thing that I get to do it.
yeah. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
And
cool.
then that kind of led me to, so I ran in Chicago the following year, and I got in through the lottery, but I still decided to run with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, the charity team, and fundraise with them, which was amazing and incredible and so much fun to meet everyone. And then also has kind of sparked me being like more involved in the local chapter of that organization
Oh,
here
very
in
cool.
DFW. So yeah, it's been awesome.
I love that. Oh, very cool. If you remember and you want to send any links over, I'm
Yeah,
happy to throw some of that in the show notes. I think
awesome.
that would be really cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll do that.
very cool. Awesome. Well, sweet. Well, I always love to ask at the end of these marathon stories for a piece of advice as well. And you've given a lot of really awesome advice throughout. But if you were to like tie a bow on a piece of advice for somebody who's thinking about running their first marathon, what do you think you'd
Yeah.
say?
I'm going to bring it back to what we talked about earlier on of like being a student of the sport. I think it's so important. And I know we touched on this already, but just in this time where like it's incredible how the resources we just have at our fingertips. And there has been so much, just there's already so much work done on like principles of good training and nutrition and injury prevention and all sorts of things like that. Um, that it's so easy to access and often free to access. And at the same time, it's so easy now to just type in a question and get a quick fix. So I just think, especially for your first marathon, it is a really good time to just get yourself a little bit of a foundation in just basics of training principles. Because people always say, like, trust the training. And once you've committed to a training plan, like, absolutely, yes, you should trust your training.
Yeah.
But how do you know that before you get to that step, like you have to know that your training is trustworthy,
Yeah.
right? And so just having like just a very foundational knowledge to be able to evaluate and assess whether a training plan or a coach or an app or whatever, whether it is trustworthy, I think is really, really important. And I don't think people talk about it enough. So I'm glad you bring
Totally
that
agree.
up a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I love that for sure. And like you said, I'm glad that you even put coach in that category too, because there's not every coach out there is
Right.
also the most trustworthy. So yeah,
Right.
use your best judgment, get multiple opinions on these
Yep.
things. Like it's totally okay to do your research and reach out for help. I love that.
Yeah.
You were able to do that for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, amazing. Cool. Well, let's wrap up with our fun questions here. So first question I always like to ask is about fuel. I always give the disclaimer before we get into some of these things that like fuel and shoes are your own journey.
Mhm.
Please go and try everything when it comes to fuel and find out what's best for you. Same thing with shoes. Go to your local running store, get your feet measured, all that good stuff. But for you, what have you liked for fuel over time?
Yeah. So I started out with goo. I love the vanilla ones, like with a little bit of caffeine. Um, Now I tend to use like I'll sometimes still use those, but I use a lot of UCAN because they just like kind of last longer for me. So you only take one over I think like an hour or so is what I tend to do. And then I like Honey Stinger too, but I think it's like because I have Crohn's, like the universe couldn't be so cruel to me that like fuels like gels, I'll take them and they're fine. Like I've never had an issue
Nice.
from a gel, which is I know unusual, and I feel very
Yeah,
lucky for that. But
very
yeah,
cool.
loving the UCAN right now.
Cool. Love that. And then what about shoes? What have you liked for shoes?
Yeah, so I love the Saucony Tempest. I don't hear a lot about it, but I wear stability shoes typically because I have like super flat feet and overpronate a lot. So I just get a lot of like pain and blisters in my arches when I don't.
Mm.
And the Saucony Tempest are one of the only shoes on the market right now that are like speed shoes. Like they're built to be light and speedy and responsive, that also have that extra support and stability. So I love those. I rotate them with the Hoka Arahis, which I really like. That was like my first shoe that I wore for the half marathon. And it's so crazy. Like they were on the Hoka Arahi 6 when I started, and now we're on the 8. So I've been like running
It's
through
crazy.
three versions of a shoe.
Yeah.
And then for like, I haven't tried super shoes in a marathon yet. I would like to. Maybe this coming year I would like to, but I run in them for shorter distances. I really love the New Balance Fuel Cell Super Comp Elites. Those are my
Amazing.
super shoe.
Cool. Love that. All right, sweet. And what are we thinking about? What's running look like for you right now? What's coming up next for you?
Yeah, so I would like to do a fall marathon this year. I am very slowly but very seriously working towards someday qualifying for Boston, which is crazy because when I started out, it was like, I'm a slow runner. I'm always going to be a slow runner. But now I'm like, I could someday be a fast runner.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to chip away at that every year. So I'm thinking maybe Indy Monumental or MCM, Marine Corps Marathon. That's kind of
Cool.
like what I'm deciding between right now. And then in the meantime, I do a lot of the local races with the Irving Marathon running series for like shorter distances. I love those. And yeah, I try to do a little bit of trail running in this kind of like early part of the year when I'm not training for like a fall or winter marathon. There's this crazy trail race near here. It's called Monkey Butt Mayhem. And me and one of my run club buddies did it last year. And it's on this hill. It's like this very steep hill. It's a 0.3 mile loop. And on
Okay.
that loop, there's a 0.1 mile hill that's like 25 or 30% grade. So it's just like,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And it's in the woods out by a lake, like way up near Oklahoma. Um, and the race is you run as many loops as you can in either 3 hours or 6 hours. So we did the 3 hours last year, which in my mind, I'm like, but what if I did 6 hours? So
There's
yeah,
always
we did.
something else.
Is always something. There's always got to be like another challenge. So
Yeah, yeah.
thinking about that, I love like a trail run in the off season.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Love that. Okay, sweet. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what you end up doing this year. Sounds like you've got a lot of
yeah.
exciting things planned. So, yeah, if anybody else wants to follow along with you, where can they find you?
So I am mostly on TikTok with my running journey. Norah tries to run, Norah with an H, and then also on Instagram at the same handle.
Cool. Awesome. I'll link it all in the show notes as well. And I'll
Thank
include your
you.
resources if you send them over as well.
Yeah, I'll
But
send them.
thank you again for coming on and telling your first marathon story. It was great getting to know you a little bit more.
Yes, you too, Taylor. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the My First Marathon podcast. For more stories, tips, and resources, head to myfirstmarathonpodcast.com. And if you want access to bonus episodes, exclusive resources, and extra support for your training, make sure you check out the community at myfirstmarathonpodcast.com/exclusives. You can also follow along with us on socials, Instagram and TikTok. That's at My First Marathon Pod. If you want to follow along with my personal journey, that's at tay.says. Whether you're training, recovering, or just thinking about signing up, you belong here. I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.